Hello, and welcome to Mailin It, the official podcast of the United States Postal Service. I'm Carla Kirby.
And I'm Jonathan Castillo. When most people think about working for the Postal Service, the jobs that come to mind first are probably delivering mail or working at a post office retail counter. I mean, those are the postal workers we tend to see day in and day out. Carla, what if I told you there are actually thousands of different types of jobs at the Postal Service?
Well, you know, Jonathan, I do work in HR, so I'm going to say I know that. But I get your point. I think there are a lot of things about the Postal Service recruiting, hiring, and career development that our listeners will find both surprising and interesting. Which is why our guests for this episode are Jim Davey, Director of Field Human Resources, and Shantae Porter, Director of Talent Acquisition. Jim and Shantae have all kinds of great information they're going to share with us about different Postal Service jobs, how we find the right talent to fill these jobs, and what you need to know if you're looking to join the Postal Service. Jim, Shantae, welcome to Mailin It.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I think the best place to start is talking about the different types of workers that the Postal Service employs. I'm talking about the fact that some employees are bargaining unit employees, while others are salaried administrators, and still others are brought on as seasonal help. Let's start with bargaining unit or craft employees, if you will. Jim, can you tell us about those workers?
Absolutely. These are the roles, like you said, that most people associate with the Postal Service. They make up the vast majority of our about 630,000 person workforce. So they'll include positions like letter carriers, both your city and your rural carriers, retail clerks, mail handlers, truck drivers, auto mechanics, labor custodians, and a number of other positions. In fact, several of our postmaster generals have actually started in these craft positions and then rose all the way to the top position over time.
So I think we could agree that these are obviously the roles that are the bread and butter for the Postal Service. Shantae, can you tell us about the Postal Service's EAS employees and what those positions entail?
Absolutely. EAS employees make up about 50,000 positions of our workforce. These positions support the infrastructure of USPS in various different ways. Some of our EAS positions include industrial engineers, data scientists, sales, marketing, communication professionals, IT, cybersecurity, and human resources, just to name a few. Overall, there are about 2,000 unique job positions within the EAS ranks. Many people move to EAS positions after spending time as mail carriers, retail clerks, or at other craft positions.
Yeah, I'm actually one of those. I rose through the ranks of CCA, city carrier assistant. So I'm living proof, right? Communications. Another important part of our workforce is seasonal staff. Those are the workers who help us handle the increased volume of mail during election season and the end of year holidays. I'm curious, Jim, how does the Postal Service know how many people to hire each year? And as a follow-up to that, what happens to them after the holidays?
So the Postal Service does demand forecasting based on expected package and mail volume, and that helps us determine how much staff we need to add by location and by time of year. So a key part of our Delivering for America plan is to invest in our employees and really stabilize the frontline workforce. So in the last few years, the Postal Service has onboarded a lot of new employees and converted them into full-time positions, putting them on a solid career path in the organization. So many times after the holiday season, these employees will come back and work for us long-term and become future career employees for us.
Okay, so that talks about some of our, what we would consider our crafts, kind of seasonal positions. So up until now, you know, we've been talking mostly about the traditional jobs. Shantae mentioned the number of EAS positions that we have. Can you just give us a little bit more information about those types of jobs?
Absolutely. I love to just talk about a few. So first that comes to mind would be industrial engineers. It's their job to improve and to optimize internal processes, including mail flow and logistics. Not a lot of people associate industrial engineering with mail delivery, but logistics and efficiency are very important to the Postal Service. Another position that comes to mind would be data scientists and information technology. We have a data department that studies demographics, for example. Every large business has IT people, and Postal is no exception. Whatever you think about in another organization, the Postal Service would have it right here as well.
I think it's so interesting that, like we said earlier, not a lot of people, I don't think, would know, hey, they have, operational engineers and things of that nature. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible that the diversity jobs that we have here. But let me ask you this. In general, how often does the Postal Service hire? With such a large workforce, I imagine that we're always looking for good people.
Absolutely. Always looking for good people. And in a typical year, the Postal Service hires usually between 150,000 to 200,000 people. So we offer a lot of room for movement over time, either to new positions, new locations, or both. I think what's important is we have good people stay within the organization.
Yeah, and just to add to that as well, I want to talk about something that a lot of people may not recognize is that 50% of our workforce is eligible for retirement. So we have job opportunities that open up pretty regularly. When a job becomes vacant, we look internally first for qualified candidates. If there are no internal candidates selected, we open the process to external candidates. This includes coming up with a recruitment strategy to reach the candidates we're looking for to meet the qualifications of that particular role. We market our positions on various job boards such as Indeed, LinkedIn, and job boards that are niche specific to the type of candidate that qualifies for the position.
Okay, so just to play devil's advocate, we have these various different types of positions. Why would someone want to come to work for the Postal Service? And what's the perception of postal jobs by the general public? Jim?
So I think there's a lot of reasons to come work for the Postal Service. It's not easy work, but it's stable work, and I'd say it's rewarding work. My father worked for the Postal Service for over 30 years, and growing up, we never went without. I joined the company 24 years ago, and I've been able to do the same thing for my family. And I think we're as relevant today as the day we were founded. And given the critical nature of what we do in the Postal Service, our employees are a little bit insulated from some of the economic swings. We also have great job mobility. The Postal Service is a national organization, so if you get mail there, we probably have postal jobs there. Meaning that if you need to move for some type of personal reason or life event, there may be an opportunity to move and keep in the same company. Don't underestimate what it means to have a retirement plan. We have a great benefits package with annual leave, sick leave, retirement. And it's great to have retirement planned out for you even years before you even think you need to retire. So combine great benefits, stability, and even a degree of job mobility when you come work for us.
So, Jim, thanks for providing some background on, why someone would want to come to the Postal Service. As I mentioned, being in HR, I'm very familiar with the benefits, and we do have one of the richest packages, as far as employers go. What would you say, though, is the perception of postal jobs by the general public?
Our organization has been voted time and time again as the most trusted government agency. People rely on our services day in and day out to get their goods and their secure correspondence from point A to point B. I think we have a great image in the general public as an organization.
Something else I'd like to talk about is professional development. The Postal Service does a lot of recruiting of college graduates to fill different positions. And we offer 4 different professional development programs. Shantae, can you tell us about those?
Sure. So like you said, we do have 4 different developmental programs designed for recent college graduates, and they are sponsored by different groups. The Emerging Professional Program is a 24-month program that is managed by our Chief Financial Office Group. Their positions include data analyst and statistician associates, economist associates, financial analyst associates, and purchasing and supply management associates. These positions are primarily located at our headquarters in Washington, D.C. We also have the Industrial Engineer Trainee Program, which is also a 24-month program, and it's managed by the Industrial Engineer Leadership across 3 different executive leadership groups. The Professional Development Program is also a 24-month program, and it's managed by the University Development Programs team, which is a team under my group. The positions in this program will generally come from the remaining executive leadership groups, and these positions are determined by what we forecast as future hiring needs for the organization. And then lastly, we also offer an honors attorney program. This 36-month development program allows for entry-level attorneys to gain experience by handling various legal matters independently.
I like the idea that the Postal Service, it's growing its talent, and we're also identifying college graduates that can step right into the Postal Service and get this sort of career development. In addition to the professional programs, are there other types of training that the Postal Service offers?
I'm very glad you asked because there absolutely are. In addition to the programs we offer recent college graduates, we do also offer internships. The internships are primarily during the summer where students have the opportunity to work full-time and gain hands-on experience within their respective fields.
So, Shantae, in addition to the various development programs we offer for college graduates coming in, you mentioned the internship for individuals who are still in college and can gain some valuable work experience during the summer. What other opportunities are there for employees that are already with the Postal Service looking to develop across their career?
Yes, we have a multitude of internal programs to keep the development going once someone has actually onboarded as an employee of the United States Postal Service. So we have programs called the Managerial Leadership Program, Advanced Leadership Program that helps continue to cultivate the talent once you're inside the organization.
So, in several of our episodes, we've touched on the Delivering for America plan that was developed by our PMG. Shantae, how does what we're doing with our employees and the development we're offering tie into that plan?
It directly aligns with what the PMG's vision is. So one of the key pillars within our Delivering for America plan is building talent, and that's what the purpose of these programs are.
And so a lot of the, managers that we currently have, it seems like they probably went through some of these, programs. You mentioned managerial leadership program, advanced leadership program. There are other programs made too for some of our higher end managers, like executives and things like that as well, right?
Yes, we do. We offer executive foundations. I'm a newly promoted executive myself, and so I just went through executive foundations just this summer, and I'm looking forward to going to executive leadership here next year.
Hey, that's awesome. So what are these, kind of leadership, these executive leadership programs, what are they intended to do?
They're helping to bridge the gap in your skill set. So helping you understand how you can become a better leader, especially when you're coming into the actual leadership development programs. When we're looking at those programs for those recent college graduates, we're trying to help them transition from college to corporation.
So it really sounds like we're developing that pipeline for some of these hard to fill positions and cultivate, as Carla mentioned, cultivating our talent, investing in our employees, investing in their careers. Just absolutely amazing things going on. Now, we've talked a lot about the different types of jobs at the Postal Service. Is there any way to sum up the types of people that we're looking for when we recruit, or does it really depend on the specific type of job?
Frankly, because we're looking for so many different kinds of people to fill all these different kinds of jobs, there really is no set person that we're looking for. If you want to work outdoors all day, get a lot of exercise, then a letter carrier job is probably a good fit for you. In fact, I love to go recruiting at races and outdoor events because I know I'm going to find those kinds of people at those events. If you want to work indoors, we've got plenty of jobs at our facilities. If you enjoy being on the road, we're always looking for drivers. Some people need shift work because they've got obligations at home. So one parent works during the day, another parent needs to work at night. We've got all kinds of different shift work available as well. So there really is no set type of person that we're looking for.
I think those are some great points, Jim. We do hire it seems like across the spectrum. So another area, now that we've talked about the jobs that are available at the Postal Service, is what that application process looks like and what's the best place to look for Postal's job openings.
So probably the first place to look is our careers website. So usps.com/careers. You can also find our job listings on a number of employment websites, on social media. In addition, we have thousands of in-person job fairs around the country. So we will be there in person to walk people through the application process. Many times we'll even take your fingerprints at the job fair. So as a reminder, this is a federal job, so there's some specific requirements to come work for us, like a background check. And so the screening process does take a little bit of time.
So Shantae, would you say the process looks maybe a little different for EAS in some of the college graduate positions?
For the most part, Jim really covered it. It's about the same because you will see our positions posted on our careers page, but you can see them listed on various different sites. However, the only place to actually be considered for our roles would be to apply on the careers page. Some people may apply on Indeed or LinkedIn, but if you don't actually circle back and do your application on the careers page, it won't really be considered for employment.
Talking about the application process, how has the Postal Service made it easier to apply for our jobs in recent years?
So for our craft positions, so our mail handlers, letter carriers, clerks, we now have a virtual assessment online. So there used to be a proctored exam that you'd have to take in person. It was a civil service test that you had to study for. Now applicants can go online, take the virtual assessment, and they give you about an hour to take it, but it really takes about half that time. And it's not like the civil service test. You don't have to study for it. A lot of the questions are personality based. So they'll ask you about what kind of position you're looking for. What do you enjoy doing? Like, do you enjoy working outdoors? And it's really more about matching you to the right job in the Postal Service.
So, Jim, I think that's great information for our listeners. What tips can you provide for successfully making it through the hiring process? Is there anything that you would recommend specifically to our audience?
Yes, absolutely. Make sure to do your research. Before you apply, check our website and videos so you can see what the different positions do. The videos aren't long. Be prepared for what you're applying for. Some of our craft positions don't actually require a job interview, so this is very helpful for people who feel they aren't good at interviews or maybe even tests. Just make sure you answer honestly because we want to see where you would be a good fit, like Jim said previously. Make sure to also review the requirements of the position and ensure that your resume and/or application speaks to your experience with those requirements. Before an applicant can reach a hiring manager, a review committee must review the applicants and score them against those requirements. Also, make sure to read the posting carefully before applying. And then lastly, you can get more information at our careers page at usps.com/careers.
So important to read the posting before you apply. Understand exactly what it is that you're applying for, right? Let me ask you this. How long does it generally take for an applicant to find out if they'll be hearing from the Postal Service?
So not long at all, Jonathan. We reach out to applicants very quickly and keep them informed as they're going through the hiring process. We have really worked to try to streamline it, although it is a lengthy process because you have to be background checked and screened. But last month, I think we were down to an average about 29 days time to hire.
Oh, well, that sounds like it's happening pretty fast.
Very fast.
So again, as Shantae mentioned, usps.com/careers. I think, Jim, you mentioned Indeed. I have seen positions on usajobs.gov where other federal agencies also post. What else can either Shantae or Jim, can you share with us as last bits of advice, tips, or other good things to know before applying to the Postal Service?
So I think Shantae said it very, very well. It's about coming in, being prepared, knowing what you're applying for. We're always hiring. We always have opportunity. And as we talked about, the organization is going to have great opportunity for people going into the future as our current workforce retires. So come in, be prepared. Look forward to having a great career with us. Some of our people stay 30, 40, 50 plus years in the organization. So we're not just looking for somebody to come in for a job. We're looking for you to come in, have a career, and stay with us.
Absolutely. Jim wrapped that up very beautifully. The only thing else that I would add is if you don't see a position that you're looking for, one of the ways that you can get in contact with my team in talent acquisition would be to reach out to us at talent@usps.gov. That can get you in front of a recruiter so then you can understand what sort of positions may be coming available or what positions that you typically qualify for right now.
So much great information about the hiring process, the recruiting process, the career development process of the Postal Service. I just want to say, Jim, Shantae, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Really, really important information to get out there. So thank you very much.
I absolutely am excited that you guys came to spend some time with us today. Great information for our audience. As Jim and Shantae mentioned, the Postal Service is always hiring. So again, Shantae and Jim, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now it's time for another Did You Know segment. As the name implies, this is when Jonathan and I each present a surprising fact about the Postal Service. I'll go ahead and get things started. Jonathan, did you know that the best-selling U.S. commemorative stamp was chosen by public poll in 1992?
Interesting. I didn't know the Postal Service held elections for their stamps. Remind me again, who was on the stamp?
The king of rock and roll, of course. In an unprecedented move, the Postal Service allowed the public to select the artwork for the Elvis Presley stamp. They got to choose between young Elvis and old Elvis. That may sound pretty straightforward, but it was actually a very long process. The Postal Service originally commissioned 8 artists who submitted 60 sketches inspired by his career. From there, 2 were selected for a final vote.
60 sketches? That's a lot to choose from for a single stamp. But I guess it's fitting considering how much of an icon Elvis has become. I'm curious, which era won?
The Postal Service received nearly 1.2 million ballots. When all the votes were tallied, 75% of the voters chose, of course, younger Elvis. The 29-cent Elvis Presley stamp was released on January 8th of 1993, which would have been Elvis's 58th birthday. The stamp's design was inspired by the Civil War-era jacket and tie he wore in the 1956 film Love Me Tender.
A stamp and legacy fit for a king. Elvis is a hard act to follow, but my Did You Know has some eyebrow-raising info as well.
All right, you've got my attention.
Did you know that the number of U.S. post offices grew from only 75 in 1790 to well over 28,000 by 1860?
Okay, so tell me how that happened.
I'm glad you asked. During that time period, the United States itself grew dramatically, expanding all the way to the Pacific coast. And the population grew from less than 4 million people in 1790 to more than 31 million in 1860. As more states and citizens needed postal service, they pressed the post office department for more routes and faster delivery. The Postal Service responded by adding about 25,000 miles of post roads between 1819 and 1823 alone.
Talk about growth. How did they manage all this new work?
They staffed up. By 1831, postal employees accounted for 76% of the civilian federal workforce. Postmasters even outnumbered soldiers.
Well, that's definitely interesting.
Yes, in fact, in many remote communities, the postmaster was the only representative of the federal government they ever saw. In that way, postmasters really helped forge the country's identity in those early years by linking remote communities with their national government. And that wraps up this edition of Did You Know?
So, Jonathan, another great episode. I think one of the big takeaways for me is the Postal Service is a mammoth organization. As Jim mentioned, we hire anywhere between 120 to 200,000 people every year. So keep in mind for our listeners, the Postal Service is hiring. You can always visit usps.com/careers.
For me, it was all the different types of career development opportunities that the Postal Service is offering. Cultivating our workforce and really kind of investing in that pipeline. So many great opportunities, both internally as well as, like you said, the new hires. Really great things going on.
Exactly. And I think another thing we'll just hone on is the Postal Service offers careers, not just jobs. It offers careers that have great benefits, and you can retire from the Postal Service. So that's all for this episode of Mailing It. Don't forget to subscribe to Mailing It wherever you get your podcasts to make sure you don't miss any episodes, and follow along on Instagram at US Postal Service, X, formerly known as Twitter, at USPS, and on Facebook.